In May 2007, after 5 months of excavations, 47 coffins were unearthed in a 160 square meter tomb in Jing'an, Jiangxi province. It is the first tomb to ever have been found in China with so many different coffins buried in one pit. This shocking discovery has been hidden for 2,500 years. When the main coffin was finally unearthed, archaeologists found that it was adorned with rare goldware. This suggests that its owner was a high-ranking official, or maybe a general. Can the people buried here be the last warriors of the kingdom of Shu? All questions would finally be answered when the main coffin was opened. Before the main coffin was opened, a new question arose. The tomb contained 47 coffins, arranged in 3 sections. The main section had a foundation bed close to the main coffin, but there was no coffin on it. Its position indicated that it should be someone close to the owner's status. So, why no coffin? Might it have decomposed?
在我们发掘过程中，这个坑啊，它里面的泥巴也是高泥，高泥很轻、很干净、很纯净，没发现一点木头的痕迹都没有，所以我们可以排除它是腐烂。
It was concluded that the alleged 48th coffin was never buried. Does it mean that its owner was still alive when the master of the tomb was buried? Why did they leave a space for him or her? What was the relationship between this person and the master of the tomb? We can only examine the main coffin to answer these questions. On the 2nd of July, after 2 months of waiting, the main coffin of the Jing'an tomb was about to be opened. People were expecting to meet its 2,500-year-old owner and unlock the mysteries. The coffin was opened. What lay inside went against all expectations. It was a coffin of mud. Archaeologists eagerly removed the mud, hoping to find some funerary objects. This dampened Shu's spirits. He was deeply disappointed, knowing that he might have to face his deepest fear, that there was no miracle at all. It was just what Shu expected. The only object retrieved from the mud was a dragon-shaped jade pendant. It was a transparent half-moon with a hole in it for a cord. The pendant was only 2 to 3 millimeters thick and carved with delicate cloud and thunder patterns on both sides. Such a small finding was not enough to cheer Shu up.
所以说，这个就是说，主观里没有东西，特别是没有我们所期待的那种有文字的，或者是有文字的青铜器，或者是哪怕一小片有文字的竹简、木简都没有，这确实一点，确实很失落了。
47 coffins were discovered in the large Jing'an tomb, but no funerary objects. It was really strange. What could have happened?
"我认为呢，这个就是在古代可能是被盗过，会被盗过，所以它的一些重要的随葬品都已经被盗走了。"
But the question remains, if the main coffin was robbed, why were the coffins close to it completely untouched? Besides, the main coffin wasn't in the center of the tomb, but close to the entrance passage. Such a seemingly unusual arrangement would have made it hard for robbers to figure out the location of the main coffin. Xu was no longer interested in whether the main coffin had been robbed or decomposed with age. 6 months later, after field excavations had finished, the primary job for Xu was to move the coffins away from the site to a warehouse. "2,500 years ago, an unknown tribe left a huge mystery here, and the empty coffin revealed no answers. Instead, it gave the ancient tomb even greater mystery. Who were those people buried in the 47 coffins? What terrible things had befallen these people 2,500 years ago for them to be buried in this remote area? The answers to these questions could only be found in other fieldwork. The research had just begun. A new workshop was set up in a warehouse belonging to the local grain management office. Experts in silk fabric protection, physical anthropology, and hydrogeology all gathered here. They devoted themselves to the weighty tasks of cleaning, analyzing, and protection. The mysteries of the Jing'an tomb were waiting to be unveiled and awaiting scientific evidence. The Research Center of Chinese Frontier Archaeology at Jilin University, 1,000 kilometers away from Jing'an, was responsible for the identification of skeletons. Professor Zhu Hong, a leading expert in ancient physical anthropology, and his assistant were looking for clues regarding sex, age, cause of death, and tribal origin. Such information would provide the key to unlocking the tomb's mysteries. Wang Yarong, a researcher at the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, was the expert in silk fabric protection. She had previously been involved in the unearthing and cleaning of the Ma Wangdui and Laoshan tombs. With the help of her assistants, she was once again repeating the tedious and complex cleaning work. It required both attention to detail and enormous patience. They had to be very careful not to lose any of the clues hidden in the mud. After a period of waiting, Xu received some news from the Research Center of Chinese Frontier Archaeology. The news was totally unexpected. Relatively well-preserved remains of 22 people were present amongst the 47 coffins. All of them that could be identified were female.
他的年龄情况呢，目前看来是从15岁到25岁左右这样的一个区间。
An analysis of the remains suggests that most of them were young women, about 1.68 meters in height. Although time had not been kind to them, Wang's women's intuition to see their beauty behind the scary faces.
从他的骨相呢，你看他颧骨啊，他那眼睛摆的那个位置啊，而且就等于就是骨骼下颌的他那个弧线呐、都非常柔和。那假如就这么看着他那个头骨呢，你想象如果后面那个肌肉什么都复原上去，从他那个摆的那个匀称和他的那个比例的分配，这样那是非常漂亮。
The discovery of these young beauties buried in the large tomb was really unexpected to Xu Changqing. Thus, the assumption that the Jing'an tomb was that of a general was abandoned, because these young females couldn't possibly be warriors of the Shu kingdom. As time went on, Xu Changqing collected much more information. While the archaeological team was clearing the tomb, they found intact muskmelon seeds in 11 well-preserved coffins. The seeds are white color, and there are 100 in total.
说明这批死者他在生前曾经同时食用了一些东西，就曾经同时食用了这些香瓜，而且这批香瓜剩下的这个残留物，像香瓜籽，它来不及排泄之前，他们那些人就已经同时死亡了，这说明他们同时死亡的。
There was so much woven bamboo cord at the base of the grave, which was used to carry the coffins. The cord was found scattered across the floor of the tomb. As pallbearers laid down the coffins, they dropped the cord nearby for convenience.
发掘过程中就发现了捆绑棺木的竹绳，它们错乱的交织在一起的。 没有发现那些错乱的竹绳，它们有相互的打破关系。这也就是我们的证明，这从考古学的层面证明呢，这批棺木它们是同时下去的，同时下葬的。
From piecing together all the information, it is possible to get a rough idea about the final hours of these young women. They were tall and pretty. On one summer's day when all fruits were ripe, they ate muskmelons at their last meal. Soon after, they died, all at the same time for some unexpected reason. Then they were buried together for 2,500 years. The presence of these young females in the tomb went against speculation that the tomb master was a general. Xu Chongqing's original reasoning had reached a dead end. Instead, new questions arose. Who were those young girls? Why should they die at such a young age?
墓底发现有主棺，有主棺就有主从关系，有主从关系，主棺地位相对高，其他从属的棺木相对低，那他们之间就一定主从关系，而且可能是一种陪葬关系。就是这批小棺里面的那个死者，他是专门为那个主棺而陪葬的。
If these pretty young girls were buried alive for their master, he should have been someone important. But who was he? Nothing else was found except a dragon-shaped jade pendant revealed little about the identity of the master. So, Xu turned his attentions to the round goldware found in the main coffin. This goldware is of exquisite workmanship. It is 30 centimeters in diameter and glows with a golden light. One can clearly see a fine dragon on its surface.
它装饰了里中外3圈不同纹饰。里圈它是三组那个简体龙纹，中圈是5组，最外围是7组，都是简体龙纹。这龙纹的样子有那个上下颌，有舌头，有眉毛，有眼睛，还有角，还有卷尾。它装饰工艺非常的先进，而且很那个结构非常严谨。
In the rigid hierarchy of feudal society, dragon motifs were absolutely forbidden to be used by common people. As you can see, the goldware looks like a steering wheel. It seems to us that whoever holds it would have wielded great power.
"就根据我们那个商周时期那个埋葬的那个礼制来看，天子使用9顶8轨，诸侯王是7顶6轨，他使用了七组那个龙纹这种特点的分析，所以我当时就怀疑他可能是应该是相当于诸侯王那一级的，死者他的身份应该相当于诸侯王。
There are no local historical records relating to a vassal king from 2,500 years ago. Back in the Western Zhou dynasty, there were only 2 counties in Jiangxi province, which were located in the northern region, far from Jing'an. In an era with such poor communications, it is hard to imagine a vassal king would choose such a remote location for his tomb. If he was really a vassal king, who was he? In 512 BC, the kingdom of Shu was destroyed by Wu. The last king of Shu survived the disaster and fled to the south. According to historical records, the king fled into Chou's territory, but his exact whereabouts remained a mystery until today. Another pivotal clue is that in 1979, 3 bronzes containing the insignia of the king of Shu were unearthed in Lijia village. The location was only 500 meters away from the big tomb. So, Chu Chongqing boldly assumed that the last king led his people southward to the kingdom of Chu to seek refuge. They probably traveled a long way to northwestern Jiangxi after their kingdom was captured. They probably settled down here in Jing'an. The master in the main coffin was probably the last king of the kingdom of Shu. The other 46 coffins may be the remnants of his wives and concubines. An alternative perspective soon backed up Shu's presumption. With great patience and care, Wang and her assistants recovered lots of silk fabric from the mud and skeletons. The largest is a shroud, which measures 1.88 meters long and 1.5 meters wide. It's the oldest and most complete textile ever to be found in China. They also found China's earliest piece of embroidery. The level of workmanship was of an extraordinarily high level.
它出了，就是在那个密度最大的织锦，1公分里边有240条经线，那也就是说1毫米就要有24条。那这个就不管从这个数据上来看呢，就是它不管从那个纺织、超丝一织就是说上机这一套的那个工艺呢，都是要相当有一定的难度，就是朱砂染色难度非常大。所以就是说这么早的就是染色技术能够染的，而且那色牢度还算好，所以这个呢从技术来讲就又是一个想不到的。
The Mawangdui tomb is 500 years later than the Jing'an tomb. In Mawangdui, archaeologists found a piece of silk that weighed about 48 grams, containing no more than 200 warps. Its transparency amazed the world. The grave owner was Xin Jue, wife of Premier Changsha. The quality of the textile found in the Jing'an tomb suggests its owner enjoyed a higher status than that of Xin Jue. It is clear to see that the young women who wore such luxury clothing were not common people. The fact that they used such elegant textiles as burial shrouds shows they were of high status. This information added more weight to Shu's presumption. Shu was also reminded of something strange that had been discovered earlier. All the skeletons were jet black. Green crystals were found on a dozen skeletons. They were on the bones, gums, and skulls almost everywhere. It was confusing at first, but when associated with Shu's assumptions, the jet black skeletons and green crystals might reveal an important message.
他生前他食用了特殊的物质，形成了这种特殊的现象，所以包含有毒，包含尤其是对后来的发掘过程中，发现就是说那个尸体里面都腐败有些吃了同样的瓜子的那种现象，更加怀疑他可能就是跟他们服毒，服了某一种非常奇特的毒，形成这种奇特的物质。
A variety of signs suggest that the tomb master was the last king of the kingdom of Shu, with the remains in the other 46 coffins belonging to his wives and concubines. But there is a bigger question behind such a seemingly neat conclusion. If it cannot be answered, then no truth can be gained. In such a large tomb with 47 coffins, there were only a handful of shabby funeral arrangements. Who was the master? What was the real story behind the death of the young women? Stay tuned for Mystery of the Coffins, Part 4.